Imagine the most heavily fortified border on Earth. It exists today because of a massive global conflict that officially never concluded. This is the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. It stretches 160 miles across the Korean peninsula, carving a 2.5-mile wide buffer of landmines and razor wire that divides millions of people. To understand why this physical scar still cuts a nation in half, we have to look back to the aftermath of World War II. The DMZ stands as an active front line, frozen in place, waiting for a resolution that has been delayed for over 70 years. For more than 3 decades, Korea was ruled by Japan. But when the Japanese surrendered in 1945, the peninsula did not gain its total independence. The United States and the Soviet Union carved the country into 2 occupation zones. They drew a boundary straight across the 38th parallel. Both superpowers backed rival factions. Before long, 2 separate governments formed, and both of them fiercely claimed rightful control over the entire country. In the north, Kim Il-sung established a communist state. He built deep political and military ties with Moscow. Meanwhile, in the south, Syngman Rhee aligned his government directly with the West. What diplomats initially proposed as a temporary administrative boundary quickly solidified. 2 diametrically opposed systems were locked onto one peninsula, making a violent collision inevitable. That collision happened before sunrise on June 25, 1950. 75,000 North Korean soldiers surged across the border. Supported by hundreds of Soviet-supplied tanks, the assault shattered the southern defenses. The capital city of Seoul fell in exactly 3 days. The rapid military advance sparked mass panic. Millions of civilians abandoned their homes, fleeing south with whatever they could carry to escape the crossfire. The United Nations quickly condemned the invasion. The United States stepped in immediately, leading a massive multinational coalition to prevent South Korea from being completely wiped off the map. With UN forces pushed all the way to a tiny pocket on the southern coast, General Douglas MacArthur proposed a massive gamble, a massive amphibious assault far behind enemy lines at the port of Incheon. Against all odds, the landing succeeded. UN troops recaptured Seoul, sending the North Korean army into a chaotic retreat. MacArthur's forces didn't stop. Ignoring warnings from Beijing, they pushed aggressively northward, closing in on the Chinese border. A desperate rescue mission had morphed into an ambitious offensive. By trying to unify the peninsula by force, the UN coalition invited a massive international counterattack. Under the cover of darkness in late October, hundreds of thousands of Chinese troops slipped across the border into Korea. They ambushed the overextended UN forces, sending shockwaves through the American command. The situation deteriorated further as a brutal winter set in. During the Battle of Chosin Reservoir, troops fought off relentless attacks in sub-zero temperatures, while grappling with severe frostbite and starvation. The sheer volume of Chinese forces, combined with the catastrophic weather, drove the UN army all the way back down the peninsula. A swift military victory was entirely out of reach. By 1951, the massive territorial sweeps ground to a halt. The front lines eventually settled almost exactly where the war had started, near the 38th parallel. High-speed maneuvering gave way to a deadly stalemate. Soldiers spent their days dug into freezing hillsides, enduring relentless artillery bombardments with little to no ground gained. As diplomats sat in comfortable rooms negotiating for 2 grueling years, thousands of soldiers on the front lines continued to bleed and die over mere inches of dirt. Finally, on July 27, 1953, military leaders signed an armistice agreement. The active fighting ceased, and a demilitarized zone was drawn between the 2 halves of the country. But that document was strictly a ceasefire. A formal peace treaty was never signed. In the decades since, South Korea has grown into a global economic powerhouse, while the North has descended into a highly isolated, heavily militarized dictatorship. The Korean War claimed millions of lives and permanently separated families. It accelerated the Cold War and militarized a border that remains a flashpoint today. The fighting may have paused in 1953, but its consequences continue to shape our world every single day.